I've been in the direct-to-consumer subscription landscape for the last 34 years. I've worked for companies like Kraft Foods and Nestle and Scholastic before going out and launching my own advertising agency, which I had owned and operated for about 17 or 18 years before selling that about 3 years ago. But during that time, we also launched our own direct-to-consumer business, which is Amora Coffee. And so we launched that 10 years ago. We are celebrating our 10-year anniversary just this past October. So we're having a good time.
So coffee subscription. There are other subscription businesses. Magazines were extremely successful with subscriptions in the past. Now companies are coming more to a subscription model. What are the advantages of subscription models for consumers?
Well, the advantages for a subscription model is generally there has to be a value add coming back to the consumer. So if you're a subscriber and you're receiving your product on an ongoing basis in the cadence that you've determined, then you as the customer has saved the company a significant amount of money in advertising dollars. And if the consumer is saving the company advertising dollars, then the company can pass those savings on to the consumer. So one of the biggest advantages is a discounted product to the consumer because they are buying on an ongoing regular basis. And that allows us to pass the savings back to the consumer. That's probably the biggest advantage of any subscription business.
As a subscriber, how often can I adjust my subscriptions with your service?
So with our service, you can adjust your subscription to whatever your liking is. And for any subscription service, you should be able to adjust your cadence. So in our particular business, coffee, we are super aware of what is sitting in a consumer's pantry for two reasons. Number one, is there enough to satisfy their needs so they don't have to go out to the grocery store and subsidize? And two, are we helping them manage their coffee so that they don't have what we call pantry stuff, okay, where they have too much in the pantry? And, two things happen when you have too much in the pantry. One is the coffee is aging, it's getting older. You don't want that. Okay. And two is you don't want to take up too much shelf space in somebody's pantry. That becomes a negative. So it's really important to help your consumer manage to the exact quantities that they need. So if they want to receive it every week, every 7 days, every 14 days, every 60 days, every 6 months, you need to be able to give them that opportunity. You need to be able to give them the opportunity to, right before you ship that product, to skip that shipment, okay, or change that shipment and change the variety, or push that shipment out. It has to be the service the consumer controls. Otherwise, in my mind, it's not a true subscription.
This is perfect. Thank you. So as a consumer, I'll be able to control how much and what variety I am going to get right before the shipment.
You could receive nothing. You could receive 1 bag instead of 4 bags. You can receive 6 bags instead of 2 bags. You can change from one flavor or one roast to another. And you could do this at any time for any reason. If the consumer doesn't like the product, then you need to be able to give them a product that they like, or give them their money back. If the consumer has over-ordered, okay, and they need assistance in managing that, and if that means you need to bring product back or have them donate the product and we refund, well, we're going to do that because we're into it for the long haul. We want to be in your home every morning forever.
You've done a little bit of research, and according to the National Coffee Association, 62% of Americans drink coffee every day. That's large numbers. And coffee consumption has increased since 2015 by 5%. What do you feel is happening in the subscription business? Do people buy more into the subscription type of relationship with coffee, or they still go to the groceries and buy as they need?
So a couple of things have happened, right? So if we look at the past 5 years versus the past 2 years, Okay, the pandemic is front and center, and the pandemic has changed coffee purchasing behavior. So many of us used to head on to work, stop at our favorite coffee shop, buy a cup or two of Joe, and then when we got to work, there was always some sort of coffee, generally good coffee, available to the team throughout the day. Now the pandemic changed all of that. A lot of people, most people were working from home. Okay, a lot of people are still working from home, and so they're not passing their favorite coffee shop, and they're not getting their coffee provided at the office. So what happens? They're looking for alternative ways to purchase product, and can they purchase it in the grocery store? Absolutely. But for us, we've seen an uptick in a significant uptick in people buying directly, either through subscription or even as a single order. So, the consumer purchase behavior relative to subscription, it is growing significantly. The pandemic has accelerated subscription marketing 5 to 10x in the past 2 years.
You mentioned that you have increased the volume of the orders by 5-10 times over the pandemic years. How did you manage to handle such a volume and logistics associated with it? How challenging was it for you to accomplish it, and how did you manage?
So two things. One is the 5 to 10x growth is in the subscription space. So to clarify, that growth is in the subscription space. Amora has grown significantly, okay, and it definitely brought on logistical challenges. It brought on challenges with the United States Postal Service, especially during last fourth quarter, in terms of getting shipments to customers on time, and we had to change our entire communication strategy with our consumers to make sure that we could ship to them a little earlier to allow a little more time in transit. We were going through a time of remote work for our customer service agents, and we have fantastic customer service agents, and we call them our customer connoisseurs, and they are available 24/7, 365. Okay, you want to chat with them? We're there. You want to email with them? We're there. You want to call them in the middle of the night? We are there. Okay, but we were learning how to work with a remote customer service workforce. Okay, during a time where there was also labor shortages. So, so from that standpoint, there was a learning curve there, and I think we did very well there. As far as manufacturing and fulfillment, we had to, everything from the manufacturing side and having to split shifts for COVID safe purposes, to the fulfillment and warehousing, to again splitting shifts. These were all new things that it wasn't just Amora. The whole world was dealing with it. Okay, I think when you really look at it, the whole world did a pretty good job in pivoting. Okay, for us, we actually embraced that. Why do we embrace that? Because if more people are buying direct and in a subscription, and they're buying coffee, and that's how they're looking, or tea, and that's how they're looking to fulfill their needs in their home. Well, a lot of these customers are also going to want to be experimental. Okay, so the larger the consumer base is for direct consumer subscription, the larger of a pond everybody has to market within. So yeah, it brought challenges. It brought logistical challenges. The world pivoted. So did we. It's brought competitive challenges. The world has pivoted. So have we. A lot of people would say to me, well, gee, you've been in a direct-to-consumer space and subscription for such a long time. You must be embracing the pandemic. My response is no, I'm not embracing the pandemic. We're reacting to the pandemic. I don't think anybody in the subscription space is really looking to profit off of the world's misfortune. But it is a way. It is a way of getting product into consumers' hands, and so that has been a fantastic journey for us over the past 2 years.
I also know that Amora Coffee, in addition to coffee, you have started selling tea. Can you talk a little bit about your tea subscription and how it works, how different it is? What is it?
So it's identical to the coffee subscription. So with coffee, we have various blends and grind and roast and decaf and flavors. And with our tea, we also have black tea and green tea and herbal tea. And we found that our consumers, there was two things happening in a household. We had some consumers that were drinking coffee in the morning and drinking tea in the latter part of the day or the evening. And then we had some consumers where one person in the household or multiple people in the household were drinking coffee, but other people were drinking tea. And so we started to listen to our consumers. And our consumers were saying, why don't you have tea? So we launched a tea subscription business. We launched that in 2013, I believe it was 13 or 14. But the two coexist very nicely within the household. We learned a lesson early on when we launched the business in 2011. We are a super premium blend, a super premium bean. I personally was highly sensitized to serving or manufacturing any coffee that wasn't a single origin or an incredible blend and not mixed with flavors. But our consumers were saying, but wait a minute, we like flavors. Okay, we like the hazelnuts. We like the chocolates. We like the cinnamons. Okay, and we launched and we did that. Okay, and so we launched our flavor line as well, and we did that in tandem with the tea line. It was a huge learning experience for us. A couple of years after we launched our business, that our consumers wanted more, and if they trust your brand, if they trust the Amora brand, and they really like the coffee and they trust your service, then they're gonna buy the tea as well.
Loyalty of the consumer is important. You attempt to achieve it through the service. What else do you do to achieve customer loyalty? What's important for you?
So what's important for us, Mike, is that every single communication we have with a consumer must end with that consumer being in a better frame of mind than before the communication. Whether it was a positive communication or whether it was a negative communication. I'm not going to stand here and say that we don't have some consumers that call us and they have a problem that needs to be solved. Of course we do. Everybody does. Okay. And our number one operating principle in our company, okay, in order to not only achieve what we believe is the standard of customer, the gold standard of customer loyalty, okay, but also the common sense of treating our consumers the way we want to be treated is simple. If you communicate with us, you have to leave that communication in a better frame of mind than when you entered it. And when we fail at that, and there are times that we do, we look very, very hard at why we failed. And then we learn from that. And we do that so that we don't fail on that point again.
Over the history of Amora Coffee, you certainly had problems with customer service in the past, and I know you've successfully resolved them. Can you tell us about what were the lessons that you've learned and what are you doing better right now to satisfy your customer?
I think the number one thing you need to do is let the consumer be in charge of when they want to be communicated to and when they don't want to be communicated to. So if one of the things that we learned is that if you're only going to communicate with a customer when it's time to transact or bill them, that's the old continuity world. Okay, that's not a great experience for a consumer. But if you're going to hold their hand along the way and you're going to communicate with them at various times during their journey from shipment to shipment, not just at the point of shipment. If you're going to communicate with them, then you're going to establish a different type of rapport with them. And by doing that, that has helped us grow leaps and bounds in making sure that our consumers leave an interaction with us in a better frame of mind. It's we're a 10-year-old company. We've learned a lot from our consumers, and so it's if a consumer's complaining about something, you have to listen. And there's always going to be something new for a customer to bring to your attention. We may not like it, and we have to put on our big boy thick skin clothes, okay? But it's gold. It's the most important thing for us is to hear the negative. We have lots of great reviews. We love the great reviews that we get on Amora. Okay, I read the reviews, okay, but I make sure I read the negative reviews, okay. If there's a negative review, I want to understand why. And anybody who says they have a company that doesn't have negative reviews, okay, if you spend time on looking at where a customer has a concern, that's how you get better.
If a consumer is interested to try subscription coffee, and as they look at different companies out there, as you said, competition has grown, what advice would you make to consumer? What shall consumer be looking for in a subscription business, in starting the relationship with a subscription company?
When you're purchasing coffee or tea, okay, whether it's a subscription or a one-shot, okay, there are two primary sensories that are being addressed: taste and smell. And as a business owner of Amora, my co-founder Marina DiDomenico and I, we stake no claim that everybody's going to love our coffee. Maybe they'll try a blend and they don't like it, and we'll move them to a different blend, okay, or a flavor, and we'll move them to a different flavor. But there are going to be some people that our coffee just doesn't appeal to, okay? And so when you're the consumer and you're buying, you need to be ready to buy with a company that understands that, and a company that may be willing to give you your first taste for something much less than what it would cost you to go buy 3, 4, 5 bags of coffee. A company that's not going to ask you to make a commitment to buying some number of shipments, okay? A company that is not going to put a contingency on you tasting your first sip and then we'll bill you later for it, okay? A company who's willing to give you your first sip at a very, very low barrier of entry. And so, I would encourage consumers to look at satisfaction guarantee policies, return policies. Are you committed? Is there a cancellation fee? I mean, the last thing you want to do is develop a subscription company, okay, that sort of feels like your cell phone service.
Thank you for your participation. Really, truly appreciate your input and having talked to our consumers about coffee, about subscription business, and about Amora.
Mike, thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. Mike, thank you very much.